You are listening to Sober Motivation Radio. If you haven't already, like and subscribe and leave some reviews in the comments section so I can get some feedback. It is deeply appreciated. All right, welcome to Sober Motivation episode 8. And this podcast is in regards to how your life actually gets better when you become sober. So this is basically a topic I came up with because somebody who I communicated with was talking about how they couldn't imagine having fun without alcohol in their lives. And I remember that point too when I was first getting sober and abstaining from alcohol totally. And I remember going into meetings and hearing speakers saying how they couldn't imagine how their life could be how it is at this point and how it got a million times better from where they were at. And it was so weird that I was finally able to pinpoint the same feeling of how my life has been so much better without alcohol and way more fun, honestly, without alcohol. So some of the reasons for that, for one, is that all of these things that I'm doing is that, for instance, doing this podcast, starting Sober Motivation, starting a website, going on Instagram, posting all of this, is that all the stuff that I do, whether it's right or wrong, it's me doing it. It's not something that I can say, oh, well, because I was drinking, I did that. It was more of, hey, I did that. That was me. That was totally my choice. And some people might consider some of my choices somewhat crazy as I'm going about them. I mean, for instance, starting the Facebook group and getting the website going and getting products up onto the website and getting YouTube and getting all of it together. People are asking me about it, but it's funny to me because it's like the more I'm doing it as I'm sober and not having to justify it by saying, oh, well, I only did this because I was drinking, it just creates more excitement for me ultimately in life. So that's why I wanted to address that point, because I had somebody ask me how has life been a million times better for you without alcohol. And I remember that, like I said, with alcohol you get the instant gratification of dopamines in your system, and it basically gives you those feel-good feelings immediately, or with whatever substance that you're using. It's instant feel-good gratification, and you basically don't have to wait to feel better about what you're doing. But the thing with sobriety is that when I wake up, my dopamine receptors are already going off just because of the things that I've been working on in my life, and that I'm so excited just to open my eyes in the morning and just to see what is going on and what has been going on in my sleep. So it's interesting. So for instance, like I said before, if you guys follow the Crushing It podcast that I created in regards to how to maybe create a personal brand for yourself with going on to Facebook or going on to Instagram or Twitter or whatever, it hopefully gives you guys an idea of certain things that you can just go do, and the thing with alcohol is that it's expensive. And, I've never had a thing, and I count my blessings for this. I've never had a issue with drugs. So, and I'm not sure what, that costs on a monthly basis, but for alcohol, I was easily spending around $400 a month on alcohol. So with $400 monthly freed up for myself, that just gives me either less anxiety to deal with because I have that extra $400 a month to figure out where else it can go rather than basically just pissing it down the toilet, or I can go do something with it, like go develop another hobby or something that I recently just started doing. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm totally going to do this. So when I was out on my adventure to check out some cars down in San Diego just to go window shop, I had the idea that, oh, hey, and I don't even really want to talk about it too much, but I bought something because of the idea that I had when I was looking at these cars, and I was going to make a vlog about it, and I haven't made it yet, only because of the fact that after I bought this item and it was on sale super cheap, I want to say like $230 for it. And it was the last one that was on sale for that price. And then the next day I looked at Amazon again and figured out that that product normally sells for almost $700. So with that in mind, I want to open this, but I'm going to see first if I can sell it. Sadly, I see what I could do with it if I did a vlog about it, but to figure out that, hey, I could probably triple my money with that is kind of a big deal. So hopefully that gives you guys some ideas, and it gave me the idea too that with the money that I'm not spending on alcohol, searching for stuff on Amazon and flipping it is, I think, a cool idea to start thinking about, because there's tons of things, if you're interested in them, that if you've followed how much certain things cost for long enough, you'll realize when things go on sale. And then to have that extra money basically in your bank account rather than having it being spent on alcohol, you could look at potentially buying stuff on Amazon or wherever and flipping it and making even more money doing that. So I'm just testing out that idea right now, but that just is another avenue that you could go into to cure your boredom. And honestly, I don't know who is bored of making money, because I definitely know that I'm not bored of it. And even if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I find out. But I feel like the excitement of trying to figure out if it's going to work out or not is cool. And that's a lot more than I ever would have been doing when I was alone drinking constantly. And so that's just one thing that I could go do. The other thing, too, is having that extra money is basically allowing you to get out of your house and go do something. I mean, my car is a V10 BMW M5. I bought it probably a couple months after I got sober, and I love the car. And even owning that kind of car is not quite as expensive. Actually, for what I'm spending on the car monthly, it's almost the same as what I was spending on alcohol, which is sad to think about, but it is what it is, and it gives me fulfillment when I leave work. It's kind of like a tool that I have for myself that when I leave work, it erases whatever negativity that I have after I've left. So it's been extremely helpful for me. And again, that's something else that you guys could look at. Instead of pouring your money down the toilet, you could even look at, for what you're spending on alcohol every single month, look at potentially getting a new vehicle that you love to drive, like I have, and it's helped me quite a bit. And then the other things that you could do, obviously, buy gas for your car and go drive around. Or if you don't have a car or a license yet, $400 every single month is, and even if it's less than $400, I'm almost going to guess too that for what Bud Light normally costs or what a typical six-pack costs, if you're buying one every single day, even at $6, that still is like $200 a month that you would have extra for gas, and then going to find a hobby for yourself. And even with this business that I'm running, with everything that I've spent so far with getting a website going, getting the podcast going, getting Instagram and everything else going, monthly I'm probably spending around $100 a month for everything. And that's kind of high end, But for me, it works because everything just runs really smoothly. I feel like the way I'm running it. So again, there's just so much that frees up just with money alone for things that you can go do when you're not just struggling with drinking. And the other things too that I think make sobriety better, for instance, is you're not going to be waking up in the morning with the hangover and the anxiety of smelling like alcohol, basically, when you go anywhere and everybody smells it, and it doesn't matter what you do because it's always going to be sweating out of your pores. And anybody who says otherwise or tries to tell themselves otherwise, they're just going to try to lie to themselves. And so with that being said, you don't have to avoid people because of that one reason. You can be more confident in approaching people and not worrying about, hey, are they going to smell this on me, or am I going to look like an idiot because my brain's not fully functioning because of this? And, you know, my brain still misfires, honestly. Like, I still mess things up when I'm totally clean. But the reality is that that's on me totally. That's my mistake that I run into. So I think that's a good way of looking at it also. And then the other things too that you can do when you're sober, it doesn't have to be just going into doing, say, the example that I'm giving of just go start a business or go do a podcast. You can go find other hobbies to do. You can go to museums. You can go to books, read about books, start writing a book for yourself. You could start writing poetry. You could figure out how to go do public speaking. That's something that I've actually been really hoping to do pretty soon, is to do like an actual Toastmasters club. But so far I just have to go get in on it and nail it down and make sure it actually gets done. Maybe by the end of the month I should get it done, or if not, maybe next week I'll have it done, since I'm telling you guys about it. So that's just, there's just so many different things that you can actually go do just because you're not controlled by booze. Like, you're not under its control. You're not thinking when you're driving home. Oh yeah, and here's another good point that I think I can make about it. When you're going home or whatever, if you're chilling out and you're thinking about alcohol, like, there's a point in your brain that's thinking, oh, I got to get to the store to buy alcohol before it closes. So not having that anxiety to feel like I have to get to the store to give them my money for a self-destructive chemical on a constant daily basis is awesome. And actually, to add on to that point, now I actually signed up for a college radio class that I have been working on for probably the past 3 months. I started in June, and that's my new thing that I have to wake up and worry about with my time struggle, which I find hilarious, honestly, considering where I've came from and what I used to worry about. That when I wake up, for instance, this morning I woke up at 7:30, or actually I woke up in the evening since I'm working graveyard shift, but I woke up at around 7:30 and I was freaking out. I was thinking to myself, man, I missed my time. I have to leave the house. I have to get to the radio station to go do my radio show. And I just started thinking about how funny it was to me that I was so worried about my radio show, and that's actually a responsibility or something that I've created for myself. And I get to laugh about it because, for one, it's something that I just love to do anyways. You know, it's sort of a commitment that I made for myself that I don't stress out about too much, because it's just something that I love to go do. And I think that's been useful too. So something else that I guess you could probably look at in sobriety, as I have done, for example, is I picked up a radio class for college, and I picked it up not because I think I'm going to make money out of it or any of that other stuff. It's because I actually wanted to go learn how to do radio, and having the energy to actually go do it requires me to be sober because it's a lot of work. I have to figure out what I'm going to talk about, what I'm going to put on the show, what I'm going to be promoting, or what songs that I want to play. So if I'm sitting around drinking, there's a very strong chance that whatever preparation for the show that has to be done it's not going to get done. So that's something else that you guys can do in your sobriety is figure out what it is that you want to go learn about, and perhaps take a college class on a particular subject that you just want to go learn about just because you want to learn about it, not because there's any idea of, hey, I need to do this because I'm going to make a lot of money or I need to make money. I think that's a pitfall for a lot of people where they go into something because they feel like they have to versus doing something because they want to. And I feel as though for myself, the stuff that I get to go do now, it's because I want to, not because I have to or feel like I have to. Whereas when I was drinking, I felt like I have to go to work. I have to buy alcohol when I come home, and I have to pay my bills. The only thing you really have to do is figure out how to love yourself and take care of yourself, because I think that is something that while you're in your addiction and struggling is that you just lose that concept of what it is to truly take care of yourself and do what's actually right for you. And that's where sobriety has helped me also, where I get to figure out, hey, this is how I get to help myself, or here's how I'm going to help myself today. And that's helped me quite a bit. Something that I think helped me out a lot in making my life a lot better. When I was in my treatment program, my counselor, who I have so much respect for him. I probably would have hit a brick wall without this bit of advice from him. But as somebody who kind of just always struggled with anxiety anyways before he drank, he told me not to be so black and white about everything. And because I was trying to get sober and I knew I had to because I wanted it, I was hell-bent on handling my problem. And when he told me just stop being so black and white about everything, it kind of made me realize, hey, I need to probably not be so black and white about everything. And I think that going kind of instead with black and white, but rather the color of life has made a big difference in my life. So I'm not waking up and trying to go rigidly about anything, really. I try to go with what keeps me happy in this moment. And I think that is an important thing to think about for yourself and in sobriety as well. So that's kind of the reason why I don't follow the AA program and the 12-step program, for instance, is that if I feel the negativity coming out of something for me, even if in the long term, I guess it's supposed to help me, if I feel it in the moment where, hey, this is not helping me out, then I'm going to drop it. And I'm not going to beat myself up over stuff just because, hey, I didn't do this because somebody told me to or somebody wanted me to go do this. If anybody's going to beat me up over anything, it's going to be me first. And it's going to be, I feel like, a lot harder to do that now with clarity of mind and realizing, why am I going to let anybody rain on me or rain on how I feel about my life at the moment, when in reality, the only thing that is really important to me at this point is staying sober, taking care of myself, taking care of my family, helping other people who I feel as though are struggling, and trying to just do the best that I can in my life for others and everyone around me. So again, that's where sobriety just it gets better, because you get a clarity of mind, you get purpose back in your life, you get to figure out what you're passionate about and just to go work on it. And I think that that is a gift that is just immeasurable. And I guess something else that I really wanted to talk about too, as I was putting this podcast together, was the idea that sobriety sucks because you're going to be bored. But the thing is, right, with chemical substance, is that when you take in a substance, it basically gives you an overload of dopamine, or releases a lot of dopamine at a really fast pace. But with sobriety, as I've said before, it has what I call a compounding interest, where over time it gets better. So if you guys are not too familiar with how, say, for instance, the stock market works, if you look at stocks in the stock market that have a lot of volatility, there's also a lot of risk that's involved, where yes, there's a chance that things could go very good, but then there's always the chance where it can go horribly. Whereas if, say, you invest into something that is for sure over time not gonna go crazy and has somewhat of a control, for instance, Coca-Cola or Amazon, where if you put your money into something over time, it's gonna steadily grow. Or just the stock market in general, if you put your money into an index fund over time, as history has shown, it's steadily improving. Where I can relate that to sobriety, where at first it's going to start out slow, and then the next day it's always going to feel slow, and it might have its ups and downs, but over time, as you start to look back, when you realize and look at the things that you haven't struggled with in how long you've been able to avoid what you've had to deal with, it gives you a better profit in life. And that's just how I feel. And I think about it constantly. Every time I think back about a year ago to when I was sitting in my living room and I was drinking by myself in front of the TV on a bare wooden floor in such darkness, that and the anxiety that I had was crazy on top of that. I remember sitting there just drinking because I had to deal with my anxiety somehow, not really realizing how much it was just compounding on top of itself because I wasn't taking care of it. So to come to this point where I'm sitting here talking to you guys about how sobriety is extremely better is awesome, just for that simple point of not having anxiety constantly in my life of just certain things that I would worry about. I mean, when I was drinking, every aspect of my life was a problem. It had an issue to it. It was money had a problem to it. My relationships had a problem in them, between my family, my friends, my coworkers, my job had issues because of it, and the things that I was doing had issues because of it. Like, I couldn't even go on social media without social anxiety with everything. Everything had anxiety behind it. And my health was in the crapper because I was constantly drinking. I wasn't working out. I wasn't eating healthy. And even if I was, it wouldn't have mattered anyways, because I pretty much would ruin anything I did with what I was doing afterwards, which was a ton of drinking and pretty much destroying any productivity that I made for myself. So that's why I'm saying to you guys, it gets better. It gets a million times better. You're going to feel better. It's amazing over time. You're just kind of blown away by it, and I'm blown away by it. And just the things that you can get done. And that's the other thing too that I want to press on too with this, is that's why I've been sharing things that you guys can go do, because when you're sober, don't just be sober and then just still sit in your house and be boring. or do nothing and think, boy, well, if I was drinking, that life would be better. I mean, get outside and go find something to do. And I've given you guys hopefully enough ideas. If it's starting your own podcast, starting your own YouTube channel, starting your own website, starting a hobby again that you haven't worked on in a while, go do that and make your life worth living, because it's so worth living, and it's way too short to not go live it. So, all right, and I'm going to give you guys one last good reason for why sobriety gets a million times better. The reason why I believe it truly gets better is because when you're sober, you and only you in that moment are going to be there, present fully in the moments of your life that matter. So something that happened to me personally shortly after I got sober was that my father-in-law passed away, and to know that I was able to be there fully in that presence, because he had helped me so much with my life, me and my wife. He helped me tremendously just being there, and I just know that I was there in that moment, and it wasn't me, drunk me. It was what I felt as though at that time the best version of me that I could possibly be. And so I believe that for that reason, and I think it's one of the biggest reasons, is that you basically get to be there in moments in life that money can never get back. Money can't buy time. It can help speed up time, but you can never go back in time and be different. You can only look back on it. So that's why I suggest looking into the future, where when big things are happening, if it's a job promotion, if it's a child being born, birthdays, a family member passing away, that you're fully there in that moment being sober, and that feeling alone gives you so much more satisfaction to realize that you're in control and fully feeling everything that's going on. So that's it for Sober Motivation, episode 8, why for how life gets better when you're sober. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys also look at trying to follow me on Facebook if you haven't, or catch me on Instagram at sober_motivation. And also I've been feeding out this podcast between YouTube, iTunes. I've gotten it onto Spotify. I've gotten it onto a bunch of different platforms. So I'm trying to push it out as much as I can. If you guys are enjoying the content and it's helping you, I love it. Hopefully this continues and I can keep helping you guys out. So I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to this show, and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of Sober Motivation Radio. If you're not subscribed already, please be sure to do that right now. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could do me a quick favor and rate and review the podcast. This lets the platform know that I'm doing something right and people like the content. It would be a huge help, and I would be grateful. Be sure to head over to sobermotivation.com and pick up the Sober Motivation ebook. This book will teach you about sobriety, motivation, maintaining sobriety and motivation. Also, what would be some of the key things that you can do afterwards when becoming sober so that you can maintain the positive attitude to stay motivated and sober. Until next time, stay sober and stay motivated.